I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Hanson.
Here.
Skinner.
Here.
Edick.
Here.
Bryant.
Here.
Brewer.
Here.
Sahosky.
Here.
Boynton.
Here.
Weinhold. Frawley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here. Here.
McMahon.
Here.
Murray.
Yes.
Warrendorf.
Here.
Jarrett.
Here.
Greenfield.
Here.
Kachak.
Here.
Shalfo.
Here.
Hansi.
Here.
Chetney. Here. Turner. Present. Walker.
Here.
Bateman.
Here.
Brown. Here. Ward.
Here.
Randall.
Here.
Malcolm.
Here.
Reed. Chesbro.
Here.
Church.
Here.
Buck.
Here.
Tabor. Here. Russell.
Here.
At this time, I will ask Legislator Ted Jarrett to lead us in invocation and pledge allegiance.
Heavenly Father, today we gather at our county seat of government to offer guidance to our people. And as we ask for your blessing this day, we rejoice in knowing that you govern from a seat in every heart that is prepared for you. We give thanks to Jesus who taught us how, and we pray that you'll be with us to lighten our hearts, to sharpen our minds, to temper our judgment forever and always. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would someone please make a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Hold on. This is the minutes of the public hearing and the meeting of May 11th.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Legislator Walker. Seconded by Legislator Boynton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed. At this time, I would like to announce that a special event is taking place. I think it's today. We have a member who's become a year older. Legislator McMahon, I believe, has had a birthday either today or recently, so I think it's appropriate that we sing happy birthday. Maybe he should lead us off. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you.
He's 70.
Somebody put a sign on my lawn and announced that the whole world is moving.
Okay, this time I'd like to offer the floor to the introductions of visitors and members of the public who wish to speak at this time, and I believe Howard Rose would like to get. Did you want to?
I don't know if this is the proper time to bring it up, but I think Marguerite had a birthday this last week too. We haven't sang her happy birthday.
Well, we better. Okay, let's do it. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Marguerite. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, one last one.
You better try another. About three more.
Okay, I'd like to offer the floor to the introduction of visitors. I think we'll do that first. Legislator Sahosky.
I'd like to introduce my neighbors to the meeting.
Legislator Buck.
Chairman, I introduce Supervisor Howard Rose, John Brown. Howard is the candidate for county legislator.
Legislator
Bob Simmons. Bob Simmons is our town supervisor out there. Bob is candidate for legislator this fall.
Okay, thank you. Legislator Byrd.
I'd like to introduce Bob Davis, who is the superintendent of public works and assistant to the mayor and town village of Mexico.
Legislator McMahon.
I'd like to introduce our Democratic chairman, Schreiber.
Legislator Jarrett.
Chairman, we have with us this evening Linda Donovan, the town of Davis.
Legislator Belton.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it gives me great pleasure to introduce this lady. She is the first lady mayor that Pulaski has had in our history, and I'd like to introduce the Honorable Constance Haas.
Legislator Chesbro.
I'd like to introduce Barb Dix, the county historian of our town.
If there's no one else, then I would like to introduce Howard Rose, who will have something he'd like to say.
I'm here this evening because I'd like to put an end to a rumor that's been circulating that I believe many of you legislators have been hearing. First of all, a few months ago, as you know, we had a meeting in the town of Bonney concerning the county run incinerator, and at that time there was no one from the county to represent the county at our forum, although 11 legislators did come, and I want to thank you all publicly that attended for that. But at that meeting, a statement was read by Legislator Brown about the county's position, and at that time she stated that the press club was planning to have a forum of their own. And apparently that never happened. And the rumor that's been circulating is that the reason that never happened was because Dr. Paul Conant could not commit to coming that night, which is absolutely untrue. I don't know why it didn't happen. It was not myself or Dr. Conant that canceled. It was either someone from the county or the press club. So I just want you to know that we were prepared to come to the meeting that night to discuss the issues with you, and our purpose was not to get into a heated debate with the county on this issue, but to offer alternatives to it and have some discussion that might be productive as far as showing you that there are other alternatives to operating a solid waste management program in this county that is more environmentally sound and friendly and also more economically feasible. So I am still open to the idea of a forum, and I think it should happen soon before you get into your budget, because you may need to know some information before you get into that budget about incineration before you proceed. So my invitation is still open at the county level here to join us in a forum, and I hope you'll take us up on it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Cindy Gagnon.
I'm wondering how many of you knew that we made Forbes magazine last week. NIMO is going to go down. What's interesting is that you might like to know, a town that I used to live in, Governor, is going to kick NIMO out. And Norfolk, and Ogdensburg, and Brazier, and Canton. And they've done their study. They don't want you anymore. This is for the benefit of the public, because the Syracuse newspapers haven't been reporting it. And when I was in Governor last night, which was quite an accident, and guess who I chose to sit behind? Niagara Mohawk. But I introduced them for the audience, and I told them what their game was, and I told them not to be afraid of them. I might want to read you one of their facts. Niagara Mohawk is starting their scare tactics up there. You might like to know that basically I talked to a lot of NIMO people off the record, and they said that this is going to be to Niagara Mohawk's advantage, because Niagara Mohawk is just going to transmit. You aren't going to have any taxes for the nuclear plants.
About 40% of the engineers will go because, you see, the residential ratepayers are going to bail out the nuclear plants. As you know, Monday, all the corporations in the state are meeting in Syracuse because their rates are going to go down 30%. You know who's going to be left holding the bag? The residential customers who don't get rid of Niagara Mohawk. And that's what I told the people last night. Make sure you buy the lines, too. I have no games to hide. I'm not in love with NIMO. The only thing I've been told is some of you county legislators know that it's not going to be a 50% tax reduction. You've been told by NIMO that it's going to be 0. It's naughty not to tell the public ahead of time what's going on. You know that. But you know that I'll serve as your ambassador and tell everyone what I've heard. I'm sure you'll like that. Now, one of the things that they said is our community will be entering this market. That means public power, get rid of NIMO, just at the right time. We will be able to buy up low-cost electric power and not be strapped with the expensive mistakes of the past. For example, we can avoid high-cost nuclear contracts. Because of our rates will be competitive with the lowest cost utilities. You really should get the Forbes magazine of June 5th. It really says a lot. The 5 utilities that are going to be the losers all own nukes. But Niagara Mohawk got themselves into this mess. It really wasn't Scythe, and that's who they blame it on, along with the cost of 9 Mile 2. You might like to know that Niagara Mohawk has been to the PSC since 1990 and said, can you get us out of this? Well, guess what? NYPA's not going to buy it, so we're going to form a third-party corporation to run the nukes. But the third-party corporation, you see, won't pay the wages that Niagara Mohawk does because they're going to model it after Entergy of Mississippi. And I used to live in Mississippi, and I said, dear God, that's quite the model. You're going to be left with 3 nuclear plants, everybody else kicking out NIMO, and an awful and by the way, the bills are projected to go up double the day this happens. But like I said, don't worry. If you don't want to tell the people, I will. And I'm going to encourage every community to go public power. And I'll tell you what, when you go up to Governor, please don't mention the name 9 Mile 2 and that you like it. They think we're idiots. And they also said, thanks for the high cancer rates since the winds blow up that way.
Yeah, are you? Okay, I'd like to call on, we're going to have presentation of petitions, communication notices. I'd like to call on Legislator Boynton at this time for a presentation.
Health Committee. Please come forward. And Mr. Rose and my girl, what's your name now? I have a pet name for her, but it's Natalie Jones. I don't want to embarrass her.
Ask Natalie to do a little bit of background on the best tasting drinking water contest. This is our 5th annual, and then we're going to do the presentations of the awards in terms of the winners.
Each year, the CDC and State Health Department promote these drinking water contests throughout the state. And we started this 5 years ago, as Steve said. And this was our 5th annual. And, sorry. The purpose of this is to select the best tasting drinking water in the state. And it starts with our county contest. And our winners this year, we held our contest at the county fairgrounds on Saturday, May 27th. And we had 4 municipal water supplies participate. Only municipal water supplies could participate in the contest. We had 60 volunteer taste testers, and the winner of the county contest goes on to the regional contest, and the winner of the regional contest goes on to the New York State Fair. The winner of the New York State Fair gets the honor of being named the best tasting drinking water in the state, and they get road signs and an award from the state. So today we want to present our winners of our contest. We're going to start with the third place winner, and that was the Village of Lacona and Sandy Creek Joint Water System.
Meg?
Okay.
Legislator Sosky would like to say that. Not now?
The second place winner was the Village of Mexico. Scott Davis.
Thank you.
In the first place of this year's drinking water contest, the Village of Flagstaff, second year in a row.
This time, I would like to invite legislator Worry to the proclamation.
Yes. I'd like to have come forward our Rural Resource and Extension Committee members. And I'd also like to say that this evening, we have cheese and crackers back there from one of our members, Legislator Brown, and Chocolate Works, I guess Legislator Ted Jarrett brings it quite often. We appreciate that. We have any more rural resources? Mr. Reed? I think there is something wrong with that. I'd also like to have come forward Keith Severson, who is the Dairy Cooperative Extension Agent from the Oswego County Cooperative Extension in Mexico. And I'd like to have him bring up our dairy ambassador, our dairy princess, Abby DeMay, and also her father and mother, Sue and Ellen DeMay. Please come forward. I'd like to ask Marguerite Lincoln to read the proclamation, please.
Proclamation proclaiming June 1995 as Dairy Month in Oswego County. Whereas June is the month when nature bestows upon us her most nearly perfect weather, and whereas milk is nature's most nearly perfect food, it follows that June is the most fitting month to celebrate Dairy Month. June is the start of summer, when everyone appreciates the ease and convenience of the whole gamut of good dairy foods. And whereas June is the time to enjoy to the fullest all the mild products whose vitamins, calcium, and minerals contribute so much to health and vitality all year long, therefore we hereby dedicate this glorious month of June to the delicious idea of eating dairy foods every day. Therefore, we also set aside the month of June to pay tribute to the nation's vast dairy industry, 1/6 of the nation's farm economy, whose daily work and dedication contribute so much to the nation's health and prosperity every day of the year. Therefore, we propose a salute to milk, the beverage that has helped our children grow taller, our young adults become more vigorous, and our senior citizens to enjoy the longest, most productive lives in the history of the world. Now, therefore, I, Frank R. Church, Chairman of the Oswego County Legislature, on behalf of the entire legislature, do hereby proclaim June 1995 to be Dairy Month, and to encourage all citizens to enjoy milk and other dairy foods, and to urge civic and business organizations to cooperate in this observance in public and in private in order that we may enjoy improved health and increased prosperity. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand officially and cause to be affixed the seal of the County of Oswego at Oswego, New York, on this the 15th day of June 1995. Frank R. Church, Chairman of the Oswego County Legislature.
Hey, good to see you guys, Dad. Take it easy. How many of you?
Each of you at your desk have a brochure that looks like this. It's Human Concerns Incorporated, and they are celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. They have invited us to come over and to visit them. They're at over on Erie Street, 2 Erie Street in Oswego. What they do is collect food and distribute it to needy people throughout the year. They need our support, and I think they would feel that it would be helpful to them if some of us go, as many as possible, go over and visit them. And if we would like to, we can set a date sometime and go over as a group and see what their facility is like and hear what they have to say. They've been in business helping people for 10 years, and I think they deserve any recognition we can give them. So if anyone would like to go with me, we'll set the date and we'll go over someday and visit them. Is this, pardon? Under reports of town and county officials, I'd like to call on Legislator Ward, please, at this time. Pardon?
This is from the Government Committee. We have placed on each of the desks here today 2 handouts. One regarding the resolution which was put on the floor last month and referred to Government Committee regarding a pilot payments on Maddening. And we have spent the last 30 days doing a considerable amount of work looking into this. We are not at this moment prepared to bring a resolution to the floor. We need to do some more work. We have been in contact with the state. Both Senator Wright and Senator Sullivan would like to come up and address the committee. They're trying to set that committee meeting up. We'll advise all of the legislators the date of the committee, of the meeting, so that anyone who desires to be there to get the state's perspective and hear what they have to say, as well as where we are on this issue. It is our position at this moment that we would like to bring a resolution to the floor which we all feel comfortable supporting. And we are getting some information which is in conflict with itself from the same people in some instances. have one that we are comfortable with. We would hope that we could do that by next month. The other thing is, on your desk is the final draft of the revised committee structure based on the efforts of the government committee to reduce from 19 committees to 9 committees for the legislature as seated the 1st of January. We would like you to review this. The committee will meet on the 6th of July, I believe is the next regular committee meeting. We would very much like to have everyone come or anyone come, give us your input, because we would like to have a resolution on the floor at the July meeting to review and accept this proposal.
Thank you, Legislator Watt. Also, I'd like to call on, excuse me, go ahead, Legislator Tate.
I'd just like to say thank you to the General Government Committee and Carrie Dorsey. I've been doing back and forth talking to Carrie about some of the stuff with the NIPA, and I know that they've been working very hard. And I'm very pleased now that our Senator Jim Wright has decided to come down and review this. I had talked to him in Albany in March about this, and I'm glad that he's made a decision to come down along with Fran Sullivan. So thank you, appreciated that very much.
Thank you. Legislator Murray.
Yeah, I'd just like to second that sentiment. That it's nice to have these reports in front of us so we can keep up with what's going on with other committees of which we do not keep track of. And I also want to thank Legislative Ted Jarrett, Chairman of Ways and Means. Ted has put together through the budget analysis, Steve, some of the savings that we have saved this past year. And I was a little apprehensive. I was sort of doubting at one time, have we saved this much money? But he did present me with a list of things that are taking place or are going to be taking place, and I want to thank him for that and the committee. I also, on the second thought, I'd like to also ask about what's happened to the privatization of the airport, and also the what's going on with our car policy within the county. I know we got one report, and I haven't seen anything since, and I think it'd be a good idea if whoever's in charge of that, that chairman of that committee could come up and put something on our desk.
Yes, the reports of special committees at the moment.
Okay.
They are ready. Legislator McMahon.
Mr. Chairman, I'm very pleased that the Government Committee is taking charge of this issue with the Power Authority. And I know that we've passed resolutions before, and we've talked about this, and there's many of us in here that are concerned about this issue. And we in the minority are willing to help in any way we can, because we know in Albany that it takes two to tango down there. And I think it's time that the Power Authority, we can work to try to bring some money back to Oswego County to help the taxpayers here, and we're willing to work with the Government Committee in this body. Thank you very much for your efforts.
At this time, I will call on Legislator Frawley, who has something he would like to talk about.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when I came back from the April meeting of the Central New York Regional Economic Development Council, I came to you with information that had to do with some hopeful good progress in our county. And I asked your cooperation to see that the proper people talk to 2 or 3 representatives that I asked to come and speak to you people. I particularly want to compliment Art and Mark Lichtenstein for taking a very aggressive step by holding the paper mill pulp and sludge brain session that they had on the 16th of May. Oswego County, and especially the River Valley, at one time and up until the late 50s, was the major producer of paper and paper products. And now history may be repeated, or at least given the opportunity to encourage the revitalization of the paper industry in our county. The possibility of Liberty Beloit in Scriba, a possible office paper recycler at the mill complex in Valney, some changes at Hammer Mill in Oswego to a corrugated board material recycler, the Armstrong World Industries expansion by adding specialty paper board out of Beaver Falls to the Arrowhead the responsibility here in Oswego County, and with a large proposed expansion of shoulder paper in Richland, we have a fantastic opportunity. Let's not allow it to pass us by. I understand that even with these mills were to pay the tipping fees to the county, our 60-year, the possibility of a 60-year landfill now becomes about a 10-year landfill, because we expect approximately 300,000 tons of byproduct. The landfill would never take it. We need only to encourage and seriously help and present these new businesses with some idea of how we can handle their industries. Our own Public Works Department could turn this waste material into a saleable product. The research done by this and Mark Lichtenstein's group under normal processing cost, that paper mill pulp sludge could replace coal. It could be used for mulch. It makes excellent animal bedding. It could make building insulation materials. And the raw materials now available, and with the addition of a proposed mill, would exceed 300,000 tons of waste that we got to process. This opportunity is similar to the very successful EARTH and the MEF, that both are part of our outstanding recycling program. Oswego County has always been far ahead of most in the handling of solid waste and recyclable products. So let's add this new challenge to our past success and show new industry that we really and truly want them to come here. So let's not drop this ball. The thing is hot right now, and let's proceed and see what we can do with this thing. It was a good meeting, Art. I read the executive paper on it. It was very well, very well done. So let's keep it up.
Thank you.
I will carry that message to the next meeting with Teresa recommendation.
Any other reports of Palmer County officials, legislative Jarrett?
I just want to make a comment. I want to thank Ed very much for his point very well made on the sludge situation. I think it's extremely important that Ed would stand up and to give credit to our outstanding solid waste division. They certainly are a shining star out there for us, and give recognition to those that are doing such a fine job, looking into the future, working very hard on getting results for us. I think it's very important. Thank you.
I think, along with Mark's working on this every day just about, and when they get the results as far, I think the industry's going to maybe take care of itself in this problem. And what help they need, we can give them, we're going to give them, okay? And I think it's going to come out fine. And I think when they get the final results, you'll all get the message from the Public Works Committee or from Mark himself. And it won't take any time right now, but I know it's looking pretty good.
But the point is, we're being cooperative.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we're taking our time to look into it, and some entrepreneurs could make themselves a good buck.
That's correct. Well, we found out by drawing this group together that they can probably solve their own problems with the county. And it's better if independent individuals do it, independent companies do it rather than the county.
But we've taken the right step.
Yes. Legislative Johnson.
If it's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a comment here. Kind of a spin-off from Legislator Frawley's. I noticed on my desk, we have a letter from one Christine Rose. I'll just make a recommendation that perhaps the Public Works Committee could take a look at this letter and come back with a report on the feasibility of box board recycling. See if that could be done and maybe report back to the full
This is
legislature.
part of it, Russ.
This one, okay.
I think Mark's already answered it. Haven't you, Mark, answered that to him?
What's that? I'm sorry, Art, what?
On the letter for Mrs. Rose, that you almost...
Yeah, I sent a response to that, but it didn't get, it's probably in the mail because it just went out the other day. But what I basically told Ms. Rose is that that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to Madison County and we're going to Oneida, Herkimer County. They're doing it as well. There is a market for the material right now at $80 a ton. The only question we have is how long-standing that market is. And but Madison is doing a good job at it. We've been keeping track of it, so we'll come back to the legislature and recommend whether we do it or not, probably at the next meeting. Thank you.
Are there any reports of special committees? Were you going to speak on the previous?
No, on the car committee.
Okay, you're on.
I'm on?
You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Sorry, Mr. Boyd.
That's all right, no problem. Our car committee, first of all, I want to say thank you to all our committee members. They've been exceptional. We are working very diligently, meeting once a week. We do have a draft plan now in place. There's some little refinement to be done on it, but we expect to lay that before the legislature at their August meeting. At that time, they will have time to take it home, read it, mull it over, and come back, and we'll discuss the whole thing in September. Anything else you need to know, Mr. Murray?
That's the start in the right direction.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Ed.
Floyd, you're just going to give us the report, there'll be no discussion on it? Because that August meeting is a disaster.
Yeah, well, I just want to lay it on the table in August, you people take it home, and we can have full discussion on it in September, and if this is all right, we'll approve. Anything else, anybody else? Anybody want to add to it, Jim?
Floyd's been tremendous as a chairman. Scott, taking a look at everything, he's been very fair and open, and I think it's a very good report that you'll see. And we've looked at it from every possible way, and like he says, he's a slave driver. He's had us here every week working at it. So we'll have it to you in August, and then hopefully in September we can discuss it and go back.
Thank you. Legislator, take.
Just one other comment on that. I think that we've all sat around and tried to, as fair as fair, and Floyd has been exceptional in keeping us in line.
Boy.
Yay for
Yeah, I'd like to say something pertaining to the car committee. It has taken a long time, but in order to do justice and to be fair to our constituents as well as the employees themselves that are involved in this, it has to take this long to do the job properly. And I think the committee as a whole has been doing just that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you guys are great. You're nice and kind.
Mutual Admiration Society. We get the report of something about the contest.
I think that ends our reports of special committees, so therefore we will go into resolutions. And, excuse me, is this where you want to be? You're right in there.
This is the appropriate time.
Okay.
I received this letter from President Ken Patrick from the Fulton Veterans Council, and I would like to read it in its entirety. On August 14, 50 years ago, America's most devastating and costly war was over. With the surrender of Japanese forces, thus ended years of battle on two fronts, continents, and oceans apart. This was accomplished only after millions of lives were lost and many more crippled for life. Truly our greatest tragedy and victory. As a 50-year remembrance to those fallen and others touched by this conflict, this council, working with the city, will erect a new monument. The monument will honor all branches of service. The monument is planned to be positioned in a small park by the War Memorial in Fulton Recreation Park for everyone to see and pay their respect. In order to accomplish our goal, it is essential that we solicit funds to help us attain a goal of $5,000. We would appreciate a donation to honor our veterans. It was their effort that has preserved our democracy. I'd like to give you a copy of this, Mr. Chairman, and Legislator Brown as Chairman of the Veterans Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Legislator Sahaski. At this time, then, we will proceed with the agenda. And the first resolution, number 1, is by Legislator Jack Beckler.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer the following resolution and urge adoption.
I'll ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of these property sold by the Oswego County Legislature, titles to which were acquired by the tax sales of 1943 to 1991.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution number 2 was by legislator Earl Skinner.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution. I move for its adoption.
Ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution creating the position of corrections administrator for the sheriff's office.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? Legislator Bateman.
I noticed Sheriff Ellis is in the back. I wonder if he can just expound on what was in the letter about justification for the position.
This is a position that we started working on this new facility in 1988, I believe it was. Our consultant recommended, and we, during our studies, that we have a position of correction administrator. We worked on it right up through until 1991, and at that time we presented it to our committee, which passed it. We went to personnel, and it was turned down, I don't know, about 2 or 3 times. Just as you all know, this last year we moved into the facility. We, again, are trying to get this position. It's been recommended by our consultant again. Most correction facilities in the state of New York have a correction administrator, an assistant correction administrator, majors, captains, lieutenants, and sergeants. Our facility, we have 1 lieutenant. That's it. We've built a multi-million-dollar facility, probably one of the best in the Northeast, and we're running it with a lieutenant. We need someone that's real skilled in corrections. This new facility, and the ones that haven't been up to see it should come up and see it now that it's in operation and see what goes on day to day. We've got to have someone there, not 24 hours a day, because we couldn't afford to have an administrator there 24 hours a day, but we've got to have someone there at least during the day with hands-on every day, 8 hours a day, to make sure that everything runs smooth. We do it now with a lieutenant, we do it now with the undersheriff, and we do it now with me, piecemeal. We can't spend all our time in the jail because we have another division that's in the criminal division. That's why we're asking for this position, so that we can have a good, smooth running facility. And if we spend millions to have this facility, why not run it right?
Chairman?
Yeah.
If we approve this position, do you think that that's going to be able to handle that position, or will we be looking for an assistant? As you said, most facilities have 2 or 3. Are we going to be able to do the job with 1?
Well, we're certainly going to try. I don't know. It certainly is going to be better than the way it is now. Back in the old days, the old jail, we had a correctional supervisor and an assistant correctional supervisor. But they were, one was a lieutenant, and the other one we called him, I don't know what we did call him, he was a warrant officer, I guess.
Sheriff, I'd like to make a statement. When I was on that committee, from the beginning of the construction of the jail, we did take a trip to Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. And the facility was very, very similar to what we have. It was, I believe, a 230-bed facility. And one of the cautions that we were given as a committee, Earl was there, and Barb, you were there too, that the one mistake we do not make is to make sure that one person is in charge of that jail. And we haven't done that yet. It was part of the plan, and I think this is a step in the right direction. And I would very strongly support this, because you've got to have that one person that's responsible for the operation of that jail.
Legislator Walker?
Yes, on Sheriff, M5 grade of 44,389 to 55,487. I hope that salary is towards the 44, and I hope it's quite a bit less than what Mo Todd makes, because Mo Todd's been there for 20 plus years, and I would hope, I believe, probably 55 is maybe more than what Mo makes, under Sheriff.
That's more than Mo makes, that's more than I make, yeah.
Well, I would hope it'd be considerably less than what the two of you make.
We've got to have it in that range, at least in the 44,000, if we get anyone that's worth anything. That's what happened years ago. We had a price of, I think we wanted to pay the guy $30,000 or something, and we couldn't even get a guy. The one good guy that we could get was making more money as a lieutenant at his correction facility, and we didn't get anyone.
You're saying that we might go more than what, we might hire somebody for more than what you make or most happy?
Very well could be.
That is the range for the M5.
Well, I'm hoping
But I don't know, I'm sure, I'm not the personnel director, but I don't think that they start someone at the high end of a range at the beginning.
Legislator Hanson.
Charlie, could a captain or this position be in charge of the jail and report to Mo or you, the day-to-day operation?
It doesn't matter what we call them. A correction administrator is the title that's been brought out by the Personnel Committee. The guy there now, the title, I believe, is Correction Supervisor, and we call him a lieutenant, just to give him some kind of rank, because a CO2 is a sergeant, and a CO1 is a private, so to speak.
Well, I was thinking that a captain or a lieutenant probably fall below this salary range.
We don't have anything, we don't even have people that call, we call him a lieutenant ourselves to give him some kind of a rank, but his title is correction supervisor. Now, a correction administrator, if you want to call him a captain, we have no title of captain, so we can't have a salary range. There's nothing for him.
Your correctional officers do have titles.
They have
sergeants and lieutenants.
We have one lieutenant. We call him a lieutenant, but that's not his title. His title is correction supervisor. The sergeants are, the title is correction officer 2.
Legislator Beckwith was the next one.
Sheriff, you said that you need somebody with qualifications and experience. And this facility is different than the other facility with other kinds of, that I'm aware of. So wouldn't it make more sense to pull somebody that's been with the facility from the beginning, somebody that person is doing the job?
It would if the person was capable of doing the job. Now, if he applies, we'll certainly look at it. And if he meets the qualifications that's for the correction administrator.
Legislator Buck.
Okay, a couple points. I think, Carl, the point really is not so much the title of the position, but rather what the person in the position can do. What we see, and I will freely admit, as of the last 2 years, I have not been supporting this position. This year I have. Being on the committee and being more associated with what's going on, I see the need for an overseer, if you will. Whatever you want to call the person, is really immaterial. There are people out there, there are other facilities that do have the same or similar types that we have, as far as the electronics, as far as the variety of levels of incarceration. So there are people out there who have experience with facilities similar to ours. We really, in my mind, do need someone in there that has that overview. We cannot continue to keep spreading one or two people so thin where they're disjointed as far as what they do as far as the other positions, other things that we do in this county. We need somebody in there to make sure the mechanics of the place works and the personnel of the place works, as far as I can see. So I fully supported this both in committee and personnel these last this year.
Legislator Walker.
I'd like to have some clarification from Peter Seifel, please, who's in, on the pay scale. Peter here, Seifel.
Well, we did discuss that in committee too, and I would say to you that the committee's direction, the sheriff is being polite, said in no way do we want to see someone hired that makes more money than the sheriff and the other sheriff. And I would tell you, I couldn't see any legislative committee who would allow that to happen. I mean, you've got to set a range. There are ranges. You do have to have a range in the personnel scheme of things. That is correct. However, I would tell you, I'd be very, as a committee member, very reluctant to vote for anyone with more money, making more money than sheriffs and other sheriffs. Absolutely.
Legislator Johnson.
Sheriff, as it stands right now, are we understaffed in so in the jail?
Understaffed in the jail, we are at our limit now. All that we have been approved to have, we're full. We've got all the positions filled, and The only position in our plan that we're missing is the corrections administrator.
Wasn't there a state recommendation to do this as well?
I don't know if I think so, that the state came in, they're more interested in the staffing, the people that watch the inmates, than they are the management staff. But our consultant that we've had ever since said we need one, and I feel we need one.
We would free up the position now held by the lieutenant, and we would have one particular body, an expert, or very close to that, administrative duties that would oversee the entire process exclusively to administer the jail.
That's correct.
Legislator Brown.
Yes, Sheriff. When we were down at Stroudsburg, the gentleman that was in charge of most of the men also called training sessions on a regular basis, sometimes every day, for the persons that were dealing with staff. Is this covered in this position?
I don't really understand what you mean. He was in charge of the training?
Yeah, but if they were having problems with staff, they would have meetings to reinforce the training. So that they interacted correctly with the prisoners. So is this the position that takes care of that?
This is a position that would oversee to make sure that was done if there was a problem, yes. He will oversee the entire operation of the jail, including the men, including telling me exactly what we need down in the jail as far as for budgetary, to make out the budget and that type of thing. Plus, he would be a disciplinarian that would take action if there was a problem with one of the correction officers.
Wait a minute, I think Legislator McMahon had his hand back.
The undersheriff, is his salary range around 46? We were discussing it, is it around 46?
I believe it is, yes. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Considering hiring somebody, probably here at the personnel committee, something under, probably under that 46. So we got the lower end of this scale.
That was the thought of the Public Safety Committee, and I think that was the thought, the consensus when we talked about it personnel.
Can you attract?
Do the best you
somebody
can, you gotta
that
try it.
wages?
I mean, there's nothing as a...
Whereas that guy from Pennsylvania came up here shortly after we were there because we asked him to come up. He was single. I don't know whether anything ever came of that or not.
I don't think our salary level was high enough to attract him.
Oh, yeah, no, there was, their pay level and ours is totally different.
Legislator Bateman.
So this new administrative position then would make sure that all the procedures are followed correctly, and it would free up the lieutenant to take care of the corrections officers themselves on a day-to-day basis.
Correct.
Somebody else, the new administrator, can worry about all the paperwork and so on.
Legislator Cossack.
In conjunction with Mr. Crawley's question, who did he speak to when he came up here, that gentleman from Pennsylvania? You say he was interviewed up here.
Oh, I don't know if he was interviewed, Joe. I know he did come up.
Did anybody ever ask him to come up?
Yes, we asked him.
You were
to come
there
up.
at the meeting, and yourself, Sheriff, weren't you supposed to ask him to come
No,
up?
Charlie wasn't with us.
Interview him?
No.
No, he wasn't with us,
came
Joe.
up here at the request of Voorhees Associates, I believe, just to see our plans, to see the way that the jail was being built at that time, I believe.
Well, we talked to him down there, we were almost guaranteed he'd take that job if we offered him the money that he wanted.
Well, I never knew that he was being offered a job, or I had no idea what kind of money you were going to offer him.
And the consultant was a gentleman that made the final decision on it. What happened after that, I don't know.
I know he did come up.
Well, yeah, I know it was up here too. He was up here. There was also a guy from Boulder here. Yeah.
Carolyn, what was the personnel department's justification for not approving this position? Was it because you weren't open, there was not a need for that?
I have no idea. There was
Mayor,
several reasons.
another question, I couldn't hear the question.
I'm sorry, what was the justification of the personnel department for denying it? Was it because you weren't, you didn't have the,
Okay, I think what you're asking is why, when I was chairman of personnel, the personnel committee turned it down? Is that your question?
well, whoever, I don't know.
The best I can recall,
I didn't know you were, but that's all right.
yeah, the best I can recall, it was turned down about 3 times, as George Ellis said, and every time he brought it in, we never had a date when that building was gonna
gonna be open. If we hired this gentleman or person 3 years ago, they'd have been online and they wouldn't have had a building to work on or a duty to do.
So,
Next, the other thing was, he also asked for many correctional officers. We didn't give it to them at that time, we gave it to them when they got time to train over the building. They would have been online for 3 years, and they didn't have more prisoners to watch. We didn't just say no to any stuff, we looked at it for a long time. The personnel committee never talked with this gentleman in this other state we're talking about. I have no knowledge of it.
okay, so what you're saying is because they weren't open, but now it might be a different.
Well, and lastly, we had a corrections supervisor the last time he was there. We always asked, was he in charge of running the jail? And they told us that he was, and the undersheriff was at that time. We wanted to see him go across the road in that brand new building and see if that man couldn't run that building. They're shake at it as well. I think I would agree with Sheriff Nellis if he was to ask the physician, this is the time the building's open now. 3 years ago, the building wasn't open, it wasn't the right time. That's the best I can recall. If anybody else personnel remembers anything differently, they can speak up.
Any from Legislator Chesney?
Charlie, you're basically asking for a position, but you're also asking for funds to pay for the position. Is that correct? So we're looking at next year, $60,000 with benefits, health, retirement, so on, added to your budget to pay for the position.
I'm not sure, I won't know until the end of this year whether I would have needed it or not. There may be enough money in the budget right now to take care of it. Yep.
Any further discussion? Legislator Chafee?
Do we have anyone that's in the sheriff's department that will be taking the early incentive program?
No.
For retirement?
No.
Legislator Bryant?
One last thing I'd like to add is if this position is approved, I certainly hope that it's a person with a background with corrections, not just a retired law enforcement officer.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is passed.
Who are the names? Bobby and
Hanson and Chesbro, and Edie and Bryant.
Thank you very much.
Under you, Charlie, or over you?
Could be under me, Bob.
Wait, are you doing it?
The next resolution is by Legislator Checkman. Ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution providing for tourism promotion in the county of Oswego.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. The next resolution is by Legislator Russell.
I offer the following resolution in urgent adoption.
Ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution establishing revenue and expenditure accounts for the Fulton Oswego Corridor Community Service Program, Probation Department.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. The next resolution is by Legislator Warrendorf.
Chairman, I offer the following resolution.
Clerk, read the heading, please.
A resolution authorizing the establishment of revenue and appropriation accounts for the Fair Housing Program.
Is there any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. The next resolution is by Legislator Sahaski.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this following resolution and ask for its adoption.
Ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution authorizing increase in mortgage tax allowances for necessary and reasonable expenses in county clerk's office.
Any discussion on Legislator McMahon?
I would urge my fellow legislators to consider and pass this. This will not cost those that apply for mortgage tax any money. What this will do is allow us to recoup those costs in the department, and we won't be sending it to Albany. We on the County Clerks Committee have been taking a look at this for quite a while. We've asked George to come out and take a look at it and provide some information. We have a sheet that shows where we get that $7,000 from, and this is something that will benefit the county greatly, and I appreciate George's efforts, and I don't know if he has anything he'd like to add to this. County Clerks Committee, or County Clerks Department will make more money. That's what it means for the county.
Any further discussion? Legislator Jarrett.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to commend the county clerk on this effort. Ways and Means, we've asked all the departments to increase their revenues wherever possible without increasing the tax load, and this is certainly in that direction. I appreciate that very much.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution number 7 is by legislators Babcock and Jarrett.
Chairman, I offer this resolution urgent adoption.
Ask the clerk to read the heading, please.
Resolution establishing capital project number 34, Records Retention Center.
Any discussion on this, legislator Russell?
Well, see, on the advisory board for this records management, I would like the legislators to hear a little presentation from George Williams and his staff on what this is all about.
Would you like to come up, George?
Well, I think everybody can hear it. I have a couple people and some other people that's on the Records Advisory Board with us, kind of to speak to the condition of our records. We have taken some pictures back here, and I think on your desk you have some pictures. They're in black and white, and these are in color, and they're a little bit better. It's really to show you the condition of our records, and quite honestly, there's some of them that are the archival records, which have to permanently be kept and never can be thrown away. Back in 1987, the state legislature passed a records program. Each county was mandated to, or each municipality was mandated to appoint a records officer. This legislature appointed me, and we've been working on it for the last 4 or 5 years, kind of creeping along, and finally, with the urging of a number of the legislators on the floor here today, they've asked us to put this package together, and we have. The next thing that was done was to appoint a records advisory board, of which Smokey Ostek is chairman. There are some other legislators on it, and there are some department heads that are on it. At the same time, the Buildings and Grounds Committee went on a little search for a place that would house, could be our record center, and they are recommending the old sheriff's complex, at least a portion of it. And that's where I think this resolution is asking it to be placed, along with a capital project to get it up and off of the ground. I have Barb Dix here, who's the county historian, who now is heading up the records division in my department. Barb, do you want to just say a few words?
Just briefly, what a records management program could and should do, and what it needs to do this is a building. It can encourage the creation of records that contain accurate, complete, and usable information. It can ensure that information is recorded and maintained as efficiently as possible. It can discourage the creation of unnecessary records, minimize the workload on staff who are responsible for filing, maintaining, and retrieving records, provide information quickly and easily when needed by government officials and the general public, and that's probably number one. Ensure the periodic, systematic, and legal destruction of records that have no further administrative, legal, fiscal, historical, or other research value, and identify, preserve, and encourage the use of records with enduring value for historical and other research. And these are your records, our records, the public's records, and they're very important. You need them when you want to know something about your background, about how something came up. The public needs them, lawyers need them, abstractors need them, and we need a place to keep these.
The important thing is, go ahead.
Just a question, George. What is the difference between a record that we can microfilm and destroy the originals, and what we need to keep? What do we need to keep we can't microfilm?
The general answer is that anything that was created prior to 1910 is archival, can never be thrown away. There are some other records that are, for example, records that are produced in the treasurer's office, in the county clerk's office, probation office, DSS. Some of those can never be thrown away. Then there are inactive records which will eventually be purged and can be thrown away. And then there are records that are being used, not every day, but from time to time, that can also be stored in the record center and can be retrieved. In case in point is up to DSS, and Fran is here, and I think she would be willing to explain to you what her problems are out there right now. Up until 2 years ago, they were filming and microfilming a lot of their records, and it just got overwhelming, and now they're just kind of stumbling over while they're in the building. Fran, do you want to?
I think it's a matter of storage of space as well as maintaining the records. We have probably 175 to 200 file cabinets records, and we have some records that we have to maintain until the youngest child in the case is 28. So it creates a significant space issue for us. We also have to have records that are acceptable to the courts and acceptable for audit, and that was part of our microfilming problem. It's also having records kept or microfilmed that are readable and usable for audit in courts.
Legislator Walker.
Yes, after this project's done, I don't know if I should be referring this question to you, George, but when it's all said and done, are we going to have to hire more staff to run this building? We're going to have to hire more people?
I presently have 1.5, maybe 2 people total in the records area. Sure, you're going to have more people, but there's ways of getting them and getting them funded.
Through grants?
I sat on the Buildings and Grounds Committee and after listening to George, underneath it. After listening to the proposal and we walked around and took a look at the building, one thing that we did discuss was the fact that this did not have to be done all at one time. The amount of money that we have in here in the building here now, we start with our archives, I believe we talked about, and then George applying for the grants, this could be done in increments where it wouldn't come out one time out of the general fund. We could basically maybe even do most of it through grants as opposed to general fund money. I would hope that maybe we would pass this.
Legislator Russell.
Mr. Chairman, I urge the adoption of this. We're dealing with some very significant historical records that we ourselves and our children will want to review in the future. This is something that once this is set up and effectively put into operation, our school children will be able to research their heritage. They'll be able to utilize these records on a daily basis. Field trips will be established to do that. I think that's something that the clerk's office has always been willing to work with on there. This is something that's been needed for decades in this county. We have not been able to do this. We've got records that are being destroyed simply because they're not stored properly on here. And again, I'd like to urge the adoption of this.
Legislator Estes.
There's no further questions. I'd like to move the question.
So second that.
Motion's made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. The next resolution is by Legislator Brewer.
We vote on moving the question or vote on the resolution? Vote on the resolution or vote on moving the question?
Sorry. Okay, we'll start over then. We had a
I think
motion to...
No, in all fairness to Smokies, because we go through this again and again, if you say, I move the question, that means you have to vote on it. If you just say, I'd like to call the question, that means unless there's no objection, you go right to the vote. So if you say call the question, you don't have to have a vote on it. Unless somebody objects, and then you do something. So I think his intent was
I
just
said
to
the latter.
call the question, yeah. That's right.
The next resolution, number 8, is by Legislator Brewer.
resolution authorizing expenditure from capital reserve project number 22, reconstruction of bridges.
Any discussion on this resolution? Legislator McMahon.
I wondered if Mr. Brewer could explain this. We heard it in Ways and Means, and we did have some questions in our caucus, so somebody explain why we're doing this.
I think what it is right now, we've got two bridges that we've worked on in the last 3 weeks. One was one in Oswego town, we run it $20,000, and the other one was up north, which run about $8,000 to $10,000. And we'd like to have them out of this. And also, we've got $18,200 we put in this bridge rehabilitation plan. Apparently isn't paid yet. That's got to come out of that also. The two bridges we had broke down so far, one was in Herbstown, the other was up north. I don't know exactly where. And that's what we've incurred so far.
Could you explain why? Because last time we voted on reserve funds, and there was a question that came up in our caucus, why are we doing this for unnamed bridges when we had a reserve fund in connection with that? We discussed that in Ways and Means.
Well, the reserve fund, which you know we voted on last month, 5 bridges, capital project, it comes out of the reserve fund. We thought that possibly that would come out of there, but it can't come out of there. This has got to come out of the fund. All these emergency bridges, unless we have the money in the fund, we're going to have to wait before we can fix it until we come to the legislature. So we fixed these 2 bridges already out of other funds in the highway. So if we keep taking them out of there, we're not going to have anything to fix these bridges. We'd have to come back, every time a bridge had a problem, we have to come back to the full legislature.
You only spent $28,000.
28 and 18 too. We got 28,000, 2 bridges and 200 something thousand. They want to take out here the emergency repair bridge rehabilitation plan, which we had done last year. I'm assuming that's what that was written in there, right, Bruce? We caught that this morning on the highway committee.
Legislator Bateman.
Where's the $18,000 bridge?
I don't know what it is. That's what we've done before in other years. We had a bridge capital project. When you had this problem before, that money came out of the capital project. You can't do that anymore. We put the money in the reserve fund, all the money, in order to...
I did that.
Okay, well, I didn't do it. I mean, you voted on it. I didn't vote on it. Or somebody voted on it. Well, you voted on it. All right, anyway, it's in there.
You got it.
We got it. So now, in order to spend that money, you people have to say it's all right. They want to take 100,000 of it to say that if a bridge goes bad, the top falls in, the railing falls off, anything has to be done to it, we can spend up to $100,000 out of that emergency fund to fix it. No more than that. Okay, Shirley?
And what I'm hearing is you're not moving this, you're just authorizing $100,000, but it has to be for bridges that are in condition to be done.
They'll have the bill, Shirley, and all the stuff that goes to the budget officer and the treasurer to take that money out of it. The money will stay in the reserve until something. Now, these 2 problems happen. We used to, and I'll say it again, they had a bridge capital project, all the money came out of that, and they spent that way. They don't want to do that. They made this emergency fund, which is the auditors want it and so forth. In order to spend that money, you have to approve it. And that's what you're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Wait a minute, Legislator Bateman.
No.
The only clarification I'd ask for is it says up to $100,000 for the county bridge. Is that 100,000 per bridge or 100,000
No,
total?
100,000 total. See?
Oh, we have 4 bridges or 5 bridges. If there's an emergency that takes over $100,000, we just have to fix it and back to the legislator. Anything to spend over $100,000 on emergency is got to come back to the full legislature.
Legislator Murray is next.
Yeah, I just wondered, our good council said that for emergency repairs, but then it goes on to say, bridge rehabilitation plan. What is that? Is that an emergency too?
The rehabilitation plan they have is that you've passed on 5 bridges that they can rehabilitate. A rehabilitation plan is to take the bridges that the state slashes says they got to do something whether you're going to close them, then you rehabilitate them. And you were authorized for 5 bridges to be rehabilitated out of that capital project. Or not capital project, but out of that reserve fund, right? We don't have a capital project.
Legislator McMahon.
During this discussion, I have another question. Once we start talking about this $100,000, okay? Let's say we use it all up on certain bridges. Are we going to come back and ask us again for another $100,000? Or is this a revolving, once we set up the 100, once you use out, you put back in, or how does that work?
You got to come back.
Every time you move money, you authorize money coming out of it. Doug Hart ran it here, or Doug Jack, I want to make sure
Doug's over here.
what I'm saying is correct.
want to spend it out of that reserve fund. We've got to come back and pass another resolution for an additional amount of money above that $100,000.
What did we do in the past?
We had a capital,
It came out of capital funds and paid all the bridge funds. Is that right?
yes.
Now we can't touch the bridge out of this reserve fund.
Legislator Hanson.
Well, I don't have a problem with this, but I just want to remind the legislature that when this was talked about last month, putting them into reserves, some legislators were concerned about a catastrophe and not being able to get the money out. And at that time, it was explained that if we had a problem, catastrophe, you didn't have to have an emergency meeting. Bridges or whatever would be fixed, and the money could be transferred at the next meeting.
That's what we're doing.
Like I say, I don't have a problem with this, but it seems like now we're transferring it ahead of time. This isn't even a catastrophe.
It would be a catastrophe.
These have already, some of the work has already been done, if not all the work on these two bridges, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So, this is to
More than that.
replenish
Small
what's been paid.
amount of money.
Okay, but it's a catastrophe to people that live in those areas, because you had to close, on County Route 20, you had to close that bridge, and I forgot which one's up, you have to close two bridges, okay? Close them. So, it makes a difference to the school buses, it makes a difference to the people that are traveling them roads when you close the bridge. They went ahead and fixed them. And this is only giving you authorization to spend up to $100,000, fix anything like that, keep them open. If you go over that, you gotta come back to this legislature and get some more
I
authorization.
guess what I meant, supposing one of our major bridges went out, you know, a couple $1 million bridge.
Oh, then you gotta come back to the legislature and get that.
We'd have to have an emergency meeting.
Call the question. Call the question.
I'd like to maybe amend this to say aggregate and that would take care of all of it, or
It doesn't have to be
accumulated.
amended, it says total spend up to $100,000.
Okay, the question has been called.
Somebody can object, that's why you move it. If somebody objects, then you could say move it, but you test the waters. That's all we're doing is testing the waters.
Call the question.
Call the question. Try it one more time.
It's $1 million, $1 million what, on the cap, $1 million, it's two?
Close to $2 million, though, I can't remember the exact.
So, in what we, fine, that answers my question, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Next resolution, number 9, is by legislator Boynton. Clerk will read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Health Department.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution number 10 is by legislator Boynton. Clerk will read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Health Department.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution number 11 is by legislator Boynton.
Chairman, I offer the following resolution, urgently adopted.
Clerk will please read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Health Department.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution number 12 is by legislator Chetney. Number 12, which one do you?
12.
I got 12, check.
I got 12. It's number 12 by Helen Chetney.
Yeah. I don't have it.
We gotta keep going.
Okay, 12. All right, I got it.
One of them, yeah,
Legislator Chetney. Where's she? Clerk will read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Promotion and Tourism.
Any discussion on this resolution? Legislator McMahon.
Is this the one with 3,052 on the back sheet?
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. resolution, number 13, is by legislator Checkley.
Chairman, I have the following resolution ready for adoption.
As the clerk read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Promotion and Tourism.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted. The next resolution is by legislator Theodore Jarrett.
Chairman, I present the following resolution to move for its adoption.
I'll ask the clerk to read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Treasurer's Office.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Move on. Begin on opposition.
Just a statement, Mr. Chairman, some of our mail packets just had a duplicate resolution on the EI mental health grant on there, so that's where the confusion in our packet. So just a duplicate.
Okay. All in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Resolution number 15 is by legislator Sahasi.
Chairman, I offer the following resolution and ask for adoption by the
Clerk, please read the heading.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, County Clerk's Office.
Any discussion on this resolution? Not all in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted. The next resolution is number...
That's the last resolution. Yeah, but I have to waive, I'd like to ask to waive the rules to consider an additional resolution that I think is on your desk.
Did anybody not get a copy of an additional resolution?
The motion has been made to waive the rules for an additional resolution. Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah. I second it.
All in favor? Opposed? The next resolution will be number 16 by legislator Clayton Brewer.
Yeah, the following resolution and I urge that.
As the clerk read the heading.
Resolution authorizing Oswego County to file application and to enter into a state contract for a state grant and aid for household hazardous waste collection programs.
Any discussion on this resolution?
Somebody explain this?
Legislator Beck. Go ahead.
No, I got later, Mark and
Mark would like to talk on this later on after this. I'd like to have some more discussion. On your desk also is a memo, very small type. I apologize for that, but I can get it to fit on one page that way. So that relates to this resolution. This resolution, we just, I guess, since the state budget passed, we just got a notice today that there is a new grant program at the state to partially pay for household hazardous waste events. But the interesting thing is that it's also a reimbursement grant. So if you remember, our last events were in 1993, and in this memo, I think it says they cost us a total of $184,000. So what we wanted to do is, we just typed this up at 4:30 today because this grant program is a first come, first served. So what we want authorization to go ahead and apply for reimbursement for the 1993 household hazardous waste programs, and they'll pay up to 50%. So we could potentially be looking at $90,000 revenue. It depends on how much money they have available, but that's the most money we could get from the state. And I have a feeling that if we pass this resolution and I plop this in the mail tomorrow, that we'd probably be the first in line in Albany for the money. So that's basically what this resolution is, and it's not typed officially like you usually get it, but that's why it was kind of a last-minute thing. And it didn't go through Ways and Means Committee. I already talked to Ted about that.
Mark? How does that come to you, from DEC or who?
Right, this is a DEC-run program. And what would happen is the money would just go into the, what do you call it, the unappropriated fund balance, or back into the general fund. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for keeping up on these, because it's a lot of fun.
Actually, this is one of my staff people, Orly Ashley Marks, that brought this to my attention this afternoon.
Legislator Brown?
Would this include some of the freon that we are trying to recycle too?
No, this is just, remember those collection days we had for, that's all would be for the paint and the chemicals, yeah.
Vice Mayor Anson.
Yes, I support this, because I'm concerned where this material would end up if the county doesn't take it. Question, are we gonna have one this year on their own?
I think that's the next
Constituents asking.
Right, that's what
question.
Legislator Brewer wanted me to answer that after the resolution.
Legislator Bateman, you have a question? You have a question? You all set? Everybody, Legislator Brewer?
Mark, one question I'd like to ask, if we get this reimbursement now, does it have to back in the general fund, or is it something we can use if we ever decide to do what you're going to discuss after this? General fund.
County attorney says general fund.
Thank you.
Are we anticipating having a hazardous?
Why, I suppose they.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Pardon? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Resolution's adopted.
Go ahead and answer that.
Now, the next breath out of when are we gonna have the next, hazardous waste collection? That's what you wanna know, right?
And that's what Clayton wanted me to address. We built some money into the budget last year to do a small household hazardous waste collection day this year, but that was cut out of the budget during the budget process last year. But the committee still authorized me to go ahead and go out and get some quotes from companies that perform the household hazardous waste day. We have to have independent companies come in, and we did that. And those quotes came back, and they actually came back lower than, if you see 1983, 184, we're estimating about $150,000 is what they came back at. But the committee wants me to go back to the Public Works Committee with basically two different looks at this. Whether we should go forward with some kind of an event this year, which would mean the money would have to come from somewhere, you know, contingency or somewhere else, or to not do an event this year and look at other options for next year, like these type of days or other more permanent options, but there's problems with that as well. But that's what the committee has authorized me to do. Go back to them within the next couple of weeks with recommendations.
Mark, you said that when your budget was cut, you cut that, but it didn't specifically cut that, it just cut money out of
That's
your
right.
budget.
It wasn't identified as household hazardous.
So
It's
we
built-
could have that without doing something that was, you're saying was taken out of the budget. It wasn't taken out of the budget specifically.
Right, it's in the other fees and services line, which is 5438. And there was $100,000 in there, and it was reduced to $100,000, but that's what we internally had that money set aside for. That's where leachate comes out and all those type of things.
Otherwise, the program was not.
No, the legislators didn't.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I see what you're saying. The legislators didn't cross out.
That we cut out solid or hazardous waste.
Made more on recycling, right?
Right, that's what I was just asking our
So if we have
recycling.
a surplus fund there.
Take money and get something.
Legislator.
Yes, Mark, you mentioned the committee and yourself, you're going to see if maybe you're going to have a hazardous material day or not this year. I'd like to suggest, and hope to think that you will have, because I've had constituents in my area that are very in need of one, and they said if we don't have one, we will dispose of them in another way. So I would strongly suggest and hope we do have one.
Now, where did we get rid of our hazardous waste 3 years ago?
We have an independent company come in, and they recycle the paint, they recycle batteries. Some of it has to go to special landfills and other locations, but they take it and they deal with it as hazardous waste.
I see they said that the South Carolina's going to open back up for.
That's radioactive waste. That's not.
Is there a potential to have a reimbursement of this, maybe like if we do it this year, next year, there would be a grant to?
Right, I asked orally that question. The question is, can we apply for this? We already approved this motion. Can we go back and apply for more money if we have an event this year? And the answer is yes. How strongly would they look at our application because we just got money from them? I really don't know. Yes, you can apply right away.
Legislator Bateman.
I'd just like to echo what Steve said. Legislator from the city, a lot of times when I go around and knock on people's doors and say, well, why do we have to have legislators from the city? What do you do for me? This is one of the direct benefits that they can see their county tax dollars go to when they can dispose of these hazardous waste materials. And I would strongly support the committee to
support this.
I did
Okay, is there any further discussion? Legislator Johnson?
I haven't had an opportunity to read this entire letter, but, and it may be in here, do we have to have people that are certified, or employees that are certified in collecting this hazard waste, or? No.
The cost, the reason the household hazardous waste program is so costly, if you hire trained firms to come in, and we are not allowed to touch any of the material. We give them the building, we will supervise the lines of traffic, but we can't touch any of the stuff. We can't even unload it from people's cars. These are trained hazardous waste employees from these independent firms, so it is not county people taking the material. If any of you went through, you would see a lot of people get upset because they see me standing there and not helping them get the stuff out, but I could not legally take the paint out of their car.
So we wouldn't be doing that, we would, okay. Thank you.
The answer to your question is yes, you gotta be trained and certified to touch the stuff.
And our people will be trained?
No, we don't have anybody for that. For speediness, am I hearing that the legislators would take the necessary amount of money out of the contingency fund to have a hazardous waste cleanup day?
Yes.
I mean, we could tell the Highway Public Works Committee to go forth with that then, and it would, I know if there's money anyplace else, it ends up in the balance anyway, but, so we can take it out of there and get moving. Is that the idea?
You don't want it just hanging around the county, and you don't know what they're gonna do with it.
I understand. I have no problem with it.
Legislator Shalfo?
Why can't we do that right now? We got 36 legislators here, why can't we vote on it?
I don't know.
Why do we have to
This
go
is a
anywhere else?
resolution to vote on right here.
No, authorize spending up to $150,000 for hazardous waste. Hazardous waste?
It has to go out of committee.
I'll make a motion that we spend up to $150,000 for hazardous waste.
I think, again, I think it would be inappropriate because Clay has already pledged that they're looking at this matter. I think if you want a straw vote of sentiment, just from the group to give you some sense of direction, but not to put it on the floor, because at this point in time, you come in with a resolution. But you could ask for a straw vote, Clay, if you want right now.
That's what I was going to ask Mark for the straw vote, because the Highway Committee's been concerned about this now for several months. So if Mark can get a straw vote here without any problems, we'll take it back to Highway immediately, we can come back with it.
I think you'll have a resolution.
It takes quite a while to plan this thing.
But you should have a
We're gonna postpone it a month when you got everybody here. Why don't we recess for 5 minutes and let them vote?
We've done it before.
Legislator Bryant?
You have a motion, and I'd like to second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to have a hazardous waste cleanup. Do we have to set a date?
I would recommend that this motion be sent to tabled and sent, that we vote the table, send it to the appropriate committee. It's not going to lose any time because I think we're now serving as a committee in the whole, and we don't know exactly how they're going to play this thing out. And I would rather let the committee do that than to jump. Yes, if you say sentimentally we want a hazardous waste cleanup day, we'll do it. But to just do this on the spur of the moment, you're immediately becoming a committee of the whole again.
I second the motion.
All right. Yes, thank you.
Motion
Yes.
has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? Please raise your hand opposed.
Roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Yeah.
Voting on the motion or the table?
Table.
Send to committee.
Table or send to the committee?
Hanson,
No.
Skinner, Edick,
No.
Bryant,
No.
Brewer,
Yes.
Zahaski,
No.
Boynton,
Yes.
Weinhold, Frawley,
Yes.
Johnson,
Mr. Chairman, I feel like I just walked into the romper room here because I'm a little befuddled as to what's happening here. I like this idea, but I'm going to vote yes to table it. We need to look into this further.
The table non-debatable.
Keeney,
Yes.
Want to debate?
Beckwith,
Yes.
McMahon,
No.
Murray,
Yes.
Warndorf, Jarrett,
Yes.
Greenfield,
No.
Benshak,
Yes.
Shalfo?
No.
Hansi?
Yes.
Chetney?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Walker?
No.
Bateman?
No.
Senick?
Yes.
Babcock?
No.
Brown?
Yes.
Ward? Randall?
Yes.
Malcolm?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Chesbro?
No.
Church?
Yes.
Buck?
No.
Tabor?
No.
Russell?
Yes.
The yeas are 694.37, the nays are 523.34. The motion to table is passed.
Now, could I ask at this point for a straw vote so we can still register? We never did. Is that all right, Clayton?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Then could we ask the chairman to ask for a straw vote? No, this is a straw vote. The motion was made before to go right ahead and authorize it. But Clayton has been asking us for a straw vote to give some sense of direction. Now, I would definitely, I'm like you were before, I want the, but I want the same thing. I want to have the hazardous waste cleanup. And so all I'm saying is to give him some sense of direction, just a quick straw vote, yes or no. That's all.
Everybody in favor, does somebody else want to?
Just say.
Legislator Walker?
Just like to say that, speaking for the Highway Committee, we've been dealing with this matter for about 4 months. Mark, as of today, said that he will have a proposal for us in the next couple of weeks. We can come back in a couple of weeks, we'll have the numbers, the straw vote is meaningless. I would suggest we get on about our business and wait for the facts.
Okay.
All right.
I'd like to ask Bruce, is a motion, does a motion take 2/3 or majority vote?
It wasn't a motion, it was just.
Well, there's a motion to take. Just majority.
It's sent back to committee.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move into executive session for purposes of negotiation. Unless there are other announcements.
I'll second that.
If there are other announcements first, go ahead.
Like a recess for 5 minutes.
We need a longer recess than that.
This will only take a second.
We haven't voted on this yet, so.
I don't want to be, I have a quick question while Mark is still here. You know, we discussed a year ago concerning the sludge situation at Bristol, or not at Bristol Hill. And we were supposed to have NIMO come back and talk to us. And I understand now that they're going to start sending the sludge back to Bristol Hill. Is this?
That's not true.
It is not true. They're not ready to start.
No, they're not gonna send us in.
No.
Monetto sludge is not going to Bristol Hill. Monetto sludge is not going to Bristol Hill. It will not be going back.
Legislator Walker.
Wait a minute, she's still on the floor.
I would like to see, we talked last year at budget time of having Treasurer Browse come in and kind of give us a mid-year idea of how the budget is running. I was wondering if we could set that up for the July meeting, possibly.
You mean the budget or you mean the end of your balance?
Well, he said that we could have reports during the course of the
Okay.
year as to how, if you know, if we have any major problems, or maybe we're not doing as bad as we thought we would, just kind of have an idea.
Okay, what the problem has been so far with the state budget being as late as this, we really don't have anything yet. That's what he's going to tell you right tonight, and that's what we've been talking. We talk every day on this, and that's what we're waiting on right now. So probably by the next time you'll have something. Next meeting.
Go ahead, Legislator Walker.
Mr. Chairman, I know
The assembly screwed him up.
it might sound like a broken record on this matter, but it's got to pertain with the video camera that's been going on for quite some time. It's been brought to my attention by the man that is doing the job that he has been laid off from his work and he is not able to get unemployment because of his little side business. And he has expressed an interest to me that he is probably going to quit doing it because he is not getting compensated whatsoever. And I think that would be a sad day that I have a lot of constituents who do watch it, won't be able to watch because we're not doing it. And I would ask the General Government Committee to strongly look at the matter and come up with something, because the people that can't get out watching on TV, there's many of those people. It's been a matter we've talked about for quite some time now. Thank you.
Legislator Turner.
Mr. Chairman, before we go into the executive session, I would just like to comment on one thing, that our first night meeting of the year, was very nice. I noticed I was around all night, and I noticed everybody managed to stay awake, and I think it's great, so we'll have a couple more this year.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Got it.
Okay.
This is some information that a lot of legislators have asked for, and the Social Services Committee, with cooperation of the health people, finally arrived at the 1992 births in Oswego County was 1,894 births. 31% of those births were out of wedlock mothers. 40% of those births were Medicaid funded. And 12% were teenagers between the ages of 15 and 19. In 1994, our best estimate is that 50% of all births are Medicaid funded. So we're talking about some real change here. And this is some of the changes that were proposed in the state budget. How it's going to fall into Oswego County, we don't know, but that's a lot of dough.
I got one announcement before.
Have an announcement before we go?
Yeah.
Me too.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Two announcements.
On your desk is a lot of material, I realize, but don't overlook the county fair information, because your tickets for the fair are in an envelope. So please look at the material there. Take good care of it.
County Administrator.
After the executive session, we will reconvene. There'll be no vote as far as what we're doing in the executive session, but I have a tape that I'd like all the legislators to be able to see. And we listened to Mr. Rose, Supervisor Rose tonight, as far as Dr. Connett's statements. There's another side to the story. That's the name of the tape. It's put on by St. Lawrence County and what they've done up in, what he had accomplished up in St. Lawrence County. And I just would like you to see this tape. I think it behooves you to see this and help you on your decisions when you're going to have to make it sometime, if you rectify, don't rectify, or what do you want to do. I just want to get both sides out here, and tonight I want the press and everybody to come back. It's open for anybody to watch.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Frank, the pictures that we had from Government Day.
They're in there. You got an envelope with them.
Yes, but did the children have that picture mailed to them?
No, I think we give it to them, don't we?
I don't know anything about it.
I've taken them
Well,
myself.
last year they mailed it to them.
Bill Church would know more about it.
Those are there for you to give to them. Those are the pictures.
How come you didn't make 5x7s? Crack your eyes will get strained looking at that thing.
Save it. We're downsizing. Ed, we're downsizing in the government. Downsizing.
Sure did. I looked at that, it was about 7:30 before I got my eyes back before.
Well, the older people are like that.
Yeah.
The answer to your question is they're not 5x7s because we're trying to reduce the cost. It saves about $2.80 per frame.
See?
So if you're
I'm telling you.
5x5.
We have to get new glasses. Okay, we still have a motion on the floor and seconded to go in executive session.
Aye.
All in favor?
How about a recess?
We will have a few minutes recess at this time.
Hey, Clay.